said, my name is Beth Nevarez. I'm the collection care specialist at the Tobacco Farm Life Museum. And I mostly work with art artifacts, research, exhibits, things like that. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic that I've been doing a little research for a possible potential exhibit in the future. I've been finding some interesting stuff, and that exhibit might be postponed because of our closure, but I'd go ahead and share a few little tidbits from my research. Before I get started on that, I did want to say thank you so much for joining us for Clips of Time. If you've missed any of the past ones, you can find them under our videos tab here on Facebook. We're also working on editing them and putting them up on our YouTube channel. And we're still closed for now, but we've got lots of new digital things going on our website and our social media. Our website is www.tobaccofarmlifemuseum.org, and under programs we have an at-home learning page with lots of digital resources and a link to our YouTube channel. We've got some virtual tour clips and some other educational videos there, so definitely check that out. And just keep following us on social media. We'll be sharing new stuff and sneak peeks of our artifacts and exhibits for a little longer. So thank you for your support. I'm going to jump into today's topic. It is Farmin in the woods, which is a euphemism for moonshining, or the illegal distilling of whiskey. So Farmin in the woods was used because most moonshining took place in wooded areas off the beaten path. So they're trying to hide their illegal distilling. And for a lot of people, the term moonshining brings to mind prohibition. But it actually has a much longer history, both before and even since the 1920s. So the practice of making and selling illegal liquor was not just done in response to prohibition, but also for many years prior to avoid paying excise taxes. So the Scots-Irish immigrants to America actually brought over the practice of moonshining in the mid-1700s. And since then, there's just been a long history of the government imposing taxes, which leads to people making it illegally so they can avoid paying those taxes. So the first excise tax on whiskey in the United States was in 1791, and then the Whiskey Rebellion lasted from 1791 to 1794. Fast forward to the early 1900s, which is the time period that the museum interprets, and the illegal manufacture and sale of moonshine is still going on. It was very common in the Appalachian mountain areas, but also very popular here in Johnston County. In fact, in the early 1900s, Johnston County was known as a Banner Moonshine County. Moonshine as a fine art started disappearing with the age of modern medicine. Moonshine was really popular for home doctoring and was a key ingredient in a lot of home remedies. So when home remedies started going out of fashion, when modern medicine started becoming more popular, moonshine had less of a demand. In moonshine's heyday, though, it's how many people made a living, and some sheriffs were understanding of that. One moonshiner interviewed in the 1970s said that, "I felt like I was making an honest dollar, and if it hadn't have been for that stuff, we'd have had an empty table around here." And a friendly rivalry often existed between some moonshiners and sheriffs because of that understanding. And sheriffs would sometimes, they wouldn't go out looking for moonshiners per se, would only arrest them if they were turned in. Arrests were usually made by government officials who were known as feds or revenuers. But during Prohibition especially, enforcement was left up to local sheriffs to enforce, the added laws of Prohibition. And they would have to arrest people sometimes that they'd known their whole lives. Moonshiners usually reserved their hostility, though, for the federal agents and the volunteers who were referred to as revenue dogs, who would help sheriffs. Several retired sheriffs interviewed in the 1970s agreed that most moonshiners ran small operations and the whiskey they made was in the best tradition of cleanliness. Of course, some moonshine was unsafe if it wasn't made in safe or clean environments. Moonshiners avoided detection in a number of very creative ways. They would hide their stills in remote, hard-to-reach spots. They would move to new sites constantly. They would hire lookouts to let them know if someone was coming. They'd cover their stills with tree branches. Some really elaborate hidden stills were actually dug underground. And they would also sometimes put up a still where another one had just been discovered and cut down, thinking that they'd have a couple months before someone came back to check. But one of our news clippings for today will show that that wasn't always the case. So the first article I'm going to read appeared in the Smithfield Herald on November 16th, 1906. It's titled, News Notes from the State Capitol. The revenue officers have been pretty busy during the past few days. Deputy Collectors Merritt and Lloyd captured one still last Thursday several miles from Franklinton, and yesterday went back to the same place and found another still in full blast in exactly the same bed. One was an 80 and the other a 60-gallon capacity. The moonshiners got away, some of their pals having dashed across the fields and given them warning immediately before the officers arrived on the scene. The moonshiners are quite busy now making moonshine for whiskey use, as they put it. And the next article I'm going to share is also from the Smithfield Herald, but from January 18th, 1907, so a few months later, and it refers specifically to Johnston County's designation as a Banner Moonshine County. It is titled An Opprobrious Appellation, which basically means a shameful nickname. And it reads, the following item appeared in Wednesday's Wilmington Messenger from its Raleigh correspondent. Deputy Revenue Collector J.P.H. Adams has returned from a notable raid in Johnston County, in which he captured and destroyed 5 complete moonshine distilleries and got part of another. Johnston is now the Banner Moonshine County in this district. Johnston County is not proud of being called the Banner Moonshine County. Let us throw off the name by stopping the nefarious business. So, while moonshining was how many made a living, and obviously it was in demand, many others frowned on the practice, disapproved, or actively worked to stop the illegal manufacture of moonshine by reporting stills and supporting temperance movements. So, like most topics, there were people on both sides. If you'd like to read these newspaper clippings for yourself, we have them up on our blog. There's a link in the comments. Both of these articles were found via Digital NC, which is a great resource for North Carolina history that's been digitized all across the state. So thank you again for joining us for Clips of Time. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comments. Thank you so much for your support, and stay safe.